I always favour, I always look forward to talk to you about my role, to listen to your concerns, and obviously ably assisted by one of your local PCSOs here today. Over my first year, I've delivered my police and crime plan, which is one of my statutory duties. It's one of my 4 statutory duties. The other 3 are setting your precepts, as you do as a parish council, hiring a chief constable and firing a chief constable where necessary, and not always in that order. But I can report that you have an excellent chief constable in Alec Wood, who I get on tremendously well with, who is an absolute born leader and is leading the constabulary, I believe, from an operational point of view, exemplary compared to many other areas, with all of the additional challenges that come our way these days. And the police and crime plan I've split into 4 very easy areas. Victims, of course, come at the very top of the list. And over the last year I've delivered a new victims and witness hub, which is fully integrated and supports anyone that is a victim of crime. So historically, people who are a victim of crime may have had some form of help if it was a serious crime. Now the Victims Hub is there if you feel aggrieved anyway. It might only be minor damage on your car, but actually you've been really upset by it. The Victims Hub is there to help you. And is there to help some of the most vulnerable in our society and wrap them in a blanket of care, as I quite often say as well. The Offenders Hub is something that's been going for a year now. We have Peterborough Prison, one of our 3 prisons across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, but Peterborough is our local one that we work quite closely with. And my view is very much about getting my size 9s into the revolving door as hard as I can to reduce reoffending wherever we can, and to take that small 1% cohort that we have that are involved in criminality across Cambridgeshire and try and divert them away from crime. There's one thing putting them in prison all the time, although I hear a lot of people say, well, just throw away the key, whereas actually that's costing you money, it's costing us all money. It's £30,620 average per year per prisoner at Peterborough, just to put a figure on that. And actually it's in our best interest if we stop these people from reoffending in any way as well. Our Offenders Hub has a number of ways in which we reduce reoffending, and conditional cautions are something that the police can now use rather than going straight to a magistrate's court. They can hang that over an offender, put in measures that help with drug and alcohol abuse. It may be debt that's getting them into criminality, so it's helping with that end of it and stopping them reoffending. And we've had 86% compliance and only a 10% reoffending rate in the first year. So if we can roll that out, that's across 350 people. And if we can roll that out further, then it's going to benefit all of our area and our community as a whole. Communities is the next part of my police and crime plan, which is around partnerships, working together with people like yourself, finding new solutions to some of the issues we all face. Because one of the things in principal authorities, and you've got number of county councillors here and district councillors, the deputy leader of the county sat over there. One of the things we are all in common, is that our budgets are stretched and we're having to deliver more for less. So finding that sort of partnership route into some of the areas is really important. And lastly, on the police and crime plan is transformation. We have an estate strategy now that looks at income generation, not just selling off the family silver, but polishing it, looking at a number of initiatives where we can use some of our former sites to bring income in to the police force, which will then bolster up the much needed front line. And that comes with a backdrop of challenges where I've got to say over the planned period, over the next 4 years, £8.5 million from my budget. While at a time we have some of the greatest demand of policing has known in many a year. And the summer months of this year are the busiest that Cambridgeshire Constabulary have ever been. So it shows that we have a great challenge, but sometimes we have to prioritise what we do, and sometimes that does mean people like this are taken off their normal duties to help with other issues. Just to give you a rough idea, there are 30,000 calls into 101 and 10,000 into 999, which will require an immediate response. This all on the backdrop as well of 80% of police time now spent dealing with non-criminal issues. That's quite a shock to most people when they think that, okay, historically it was probably 55–60%. Now it's 80%. 80% of their time dealing with people in mental crisis. That can be anything from somebody who's just hanging flip down the high street to someone who's hanging over a bridge threatening to kill themselves, to missing people, a lot of vulnerable missing people, a lot of children going missing, and elderly people that go missing who are vulnerable and need help, and the police are there to support that. Far too many road traffic collisions still in our county, which police respond to, and a whole manner of other things that are not criminally active. But the police priorities still remain very high. Child sex exploitation and abuse, counter-terrorism, which is in all of our thoughts at the moment. And although I'm pleased to report there are no known cells in Cambridgeshire, obviously we work closely with other agencies to ensure that where we have got potential risks, that we mitigate them as much as we possibly can. Domestic abuse is on a spiral upwards, without a shadow of a doubt. And that can be male on female, female on male, and sibling on sibling, and sibling on parent as well. And to give you an idea, August to July 2012, 2,875 incidents. August, July 17, 7,156. So you can see that things like domestic abuse are taking a huge amount more of police time than they used to. Dwelling burglary, still a key for the police. Emergency response, serious sexual offences, and modern day slavery, something we weren't even talking about 5 years ago. But it is all around us, even in more affluent areas like this in Cambridgeshire, there are modern day slavery issues that have to be tackled. And over the last year we've seen that demand. We've also seen recorded crime going up, most of which I'm pleased to say is down to new recording practices. I do push back with government on some of these because it does take officers too much off the front line and far too much in terms of just doing paperwork around the back office, and that's a real challenge for me and indeed the officers involved. But we still live in a predominantly safe place. In fact, Cambridgeshire, indeed South Cambridgeshire, is one of the safest places to live in the UK. The average crime per person is 61. Across South Cambridgeshire is 56. Some areas it's 35. Some roads and streets in Cambridgeshire and South Cambridgeshire have had no crime at all recorded over the last 3 years, which is absolutely magnificent, and long may that continue. So how are we going to challenge, and if I may, Chairman, just very briefly, how are we going to challenge this big question about how are we going to do more with less? And it's been a real challenge over my first 18 months, but we've now come up with a plan. And the plan is to reduce management levels across the constabulary, which are ranks in essence, but they're still management levels. And we will go to a 2-area model across the whole of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough instead of 6 areas that we have at the moment. So Peterborough and Fenland will be in the northern sector, and the rest of the county will be in the southern sector, so you will be in the new southern sector. I will say that that means that your local policing and your local policing like your PCSO will stay exactly the same as you have now. But this will create a huge amount more resilience in terms of what the police can do. It means that a lot of the larger, smaller, targeted groups of officers that target specifics will be able to be larger and still led with the same amount of people, so therefore reducing costs. And as a result of that, the 8.5 million is potentially going to turn into 20 million total. So you do your maths, 11.5 million surplus over the planned period. That will put what the target is, an additional 100 officers onto our front line over the planned period, which is quite an achievement. We are the only constabulary in the UK that are looking to not just take on people to replace people that are dropping off or that are being promoted, but we're the only UK force that we know of at the moment that are increasing our numbers. And we desperately need to do that so that we can do all the things that you want us to do. But you can help, Chairman, parish councils can help with everything that we do as well, because policing isn't just about confidence and satisfaction, it's also about participation, and that's where you come in. Things that matter to you that may not be part of the main police priorities around parking. Things that matter to you, where the police do what they can when they've got the resource available, but that's speeding down your local roads that people feel very passionate about, and I can understand that. Standard of driving is not good, and we see it all the time. But you can participate in that because we now have not only a speed casualty reduction officer who started with us, and he's a full-time post, but we also have a full-time volunteer coordinator that has come on board as well. And he will help you set up Speedwatch in your local areas. He will help you through the governance, the training. So if you want to participate and have a good local Speedwatch that's affiliated with the police, then we will help you in every way, shape and form to set one up. And it is proven that Speedwatch in a local area is hugely effective. In fact, more effective than an officer standing on the side of the road with a speed gun. And having been out with officers, as I do on a regular basis, I can tell you now that an officer with a speed gun, as much as parishioners may feel is the best way to manage people speeding, is only ever effective for about 10 minutes. Because funny enough, people flash their lights from one road to the other to warn everyone that there's a cop there with a speed gun. So being in your local area, knowing the local people who are the prolific, because frankly most people that speed through your streets will live here. It is a good educational, and I say it's education, it's not enforcement. They will get a letter to say they're a court. They will get a letter to show what the speed was. If they get 3 letters over a period of time, they get a visit from a constable to say, look, you need to temper your speeding through the local area. So it does work. So you can help. This is a force that's delivering for you, and I know it's frustrating because they can't do everything all of the time for you, because there just isn't resource to do that. But we are working on that, and we're doing our best to get more officers on the ground so we can deal with the demand, we can safeguard the most vulnerable, and we have a plan to improve what we do in every way as well. Threat, risk and harm is at the core of what policing does to make sure that the most vulnerable of our county are safeguarded and protected, and that you continue to live in one of the safest places in the UK. So thank you, Jim. I'm quite happy to take any questions. And I would say I have regular surgeries. I have held one here, which was extremely well attended. If you can't fit into a surgery, I'm quite happy to facilitate anyone at Force HQ if you want to come to Huntingdon and meet me there as well if you have specific issues. I have an open door, you are pushing against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so I'll take questions now. I'll start off with members of council, then if any members of the public want to ask questions, I'll take you afterwards. So Tony.
Yeah. First of all, on this a bit late, but would you like to say something about cybercrime? Because I mean, a lot of vulnerable people are very susceptible to cybercrime.
Yeah, I certainly can. I could spend ages on all sorts of different crimes. Cyber and cyber-enabled crime is something that has only been on statistics over the last year. It is something that I think we're all recognising most people are affected by. Whether that's the spurious phone call at home, pretending to be from the bank, or pretending to be someone from, or the email you get pretending to be from Amazon, or all those sort of things, or somebody stuck in Kenya who, if you give them £2,000, they'll give you £1 million back. Everyone laughs, but I tell you what, 1% on average responds to those emails and give them the money. So it's a big industry that makes more money, frankly, than drug dealers do, local drug dealers. This is where we now have a cyber team that works out of Force HQ. Some of the cyber-enabled crime is corporate, so we have a serious crime Eastern region unit called URSU. Links in with that sort of wider criminality. But it is challenging because it's very easy to, through computers, through mobile phones, to actually track people these days. But with cyber and cyber-enabled crime, it can happen from anywhere around the world. And the key for us is getting key messages out into the community about keeping yourself safe. And that will be around stopping people getting into your computer in the first place, making sure when your security updates come in that you update. Many people just ignore it, keep ignoring it. Make sure that if you've got passwords and you're on different sites, you have different passwords for those different sites, as big as a pain in the backside as that is. But there are all sorts of things that you can do to safeguard yourself and your business as well, which reduce your risk significantly. In fact, if you do the basics, you can reduce your risk by 85% of being a victim. But it happens, and it happens a lot. She said that I can basically tell you this. She was a lady that came to one of my surgeries in Peterborough, and she's happy for me to share her experience. And again, you wouldn't think this is cyber and cyber enabled, but the effect has been profound on her. In 2013, her husband left, and she was left very, very vulnerable. And so everything went through, and she managed to get enough out of the divorce settlement that she bought her own house. It was all paid for, and she had £20,000 in the bank. The one thing that she didn't have last year in 2016 was a partner, so she joined a dating site. So she got onto the dating site, and she was basically coerced by someone who she thought was abroad, she thought was infatuated with her, was saying all the right things, thousands of emails going backwards and forwards. He was coercing her into giving money. She not only gave the £20,000 to him, she also remortgaged the house. She took out store cards, credit cards. She's now £250,000 in debt. And we consider that, well, how stupid is that? But she was vulnerable. And criminals in that arena will target people who they deem to be vulnerable. And she wanted us to share that. She's quite happy for us to share that because it's an ongoing case as well. But she's been left absolutely devastated. So cyber and cyber-enabled crime is something we've really got to tackle hard, but a lot of it is going to be about prevention.
Yeah, I've got a question. I was really interested in what you said about 80% of police time being spent on non-criminal activities, and we do as Parish Council try to help with some of those things. You know, for instance, we provide some funding for the search and rescue service, don't we? But in the issue of people in mental crisis, David and I went to a meeting last night on mental health and well-being at Histon, and we've been trying to kind of think of ways, about how we kind of as a parish council help with some of these sort of issues. Can you say a bit more about how, you know, community groups like parish councils might help with that and help reduce therefore police involvement?
I think what we've got to look at, and there are a lot of different groups doing a lot of different things. Yeah. What we've got to start looking at is a holistic, wholesale approach to people who go into mental crisis and how we manage mental health. And that actually starts with education. It starts in primary schools about managing mental health right through to secondary school, and then beyond that. There are a lot of partners who, I think through austerity, they've pushed themselves into a silo. We've got to unpick that. And I think how you can help is you can add your voice to people like me who are trying to lobby for change, and to help some of those groups that are doing great jobs. You know, I mean, the county provide a lot of money, the county council, for mental health teams, adult safeguarding and children safeguarding, and now it's Cambridgeshire and Peterborough wide solution. So they're looking at ways in which we can have a proper holistic approach across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. Of course, adult and children safeguarding is quite often mental health issues that they're safeguarding, not just against threats from other people as well. But there's a lot I think we can collectively do as well about raising the awareness of mental health and the fact we all have mental health. You know, it's the fact that people who don't manage their mental health or that isn't being managed for them that slip into crisis. Out with officers in Peterborough the other day, the first call that came out was a person who was hanging off one of the bridges along the boulevard. And that to me, it's a bit like when somebody goes into hospital, the system's failed somewhere along the line. The fact that somebody is in such mental crisis that they are looking for the police as a first resort rather than a last resort and threatening to kill themselves to get a response means that somewhere along the line the system has failed. And I think we all need to add our collective voices to this, because it is a massive issue and a growing one as well.
Thank you. It's interesting in that.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Are there any other members who wish to ask a question? Okay, so are there any members of the public?
I am at the moment, so, but no, it's really interesting, and you know, really wish you well on the transformation that you're proposing. It sounds great. I'm just wondering how much cross-border working there is, because you know we have corners in our, probably more than 4 corners in our county that stick out here, stick out there, and if you're just going to be sort of north and south, I can see if there's an incident there, it could take a bit of time to get across the county. And are we working cross-border a lot more now?
We are, and there's a project called County Lines that is dealing predominantly with drug dealers who come into our area from predominantly London. So there's a lot of cross-border work with other agencies. What I would say about the north and south, one of the biggest issues at the moment, say if you are, I know it's not South Cam, but you could do South Cams actually, say if you've got officers who are in Bassingbourn and they've got to get across to here, it's still a way. It's where you put your response bases. And actually South Cams is going to get the new police station custody suite when we move out of Parkside. I can't say exactly where it's going to be at the moment because we are negotiating with the landowner. And I don't want to prejudice that because I think we're getting quite a good price. But I hope he knows not it. But it's not only whether you've got north and south, it's where you put your response. Because there's a lot of different elements to the jigsaw with policing. You've got your community policing, you've got your response, you've got your specialisms, you've got your investigations. And you've got those people that still work in prevention as well. We need more people in prevention because obviously that's the future. But there's all these bits of the jigsaw. But when it comes to response, it's not whether it's north or south, but where those responses are based to start with. If that makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yes, I think following on from that, I can see the logic of what you're doing entirely and broadly support it. But I think one of the concerns that people might have is that by moving up effectively to larger administrative units, is that going to be in any sense at the expense of localism and the local police areas? We've already seen the merger of 3 in this area to make a much larger one, which obviously dilutes the effect. So.
Yeah. The whole point of this principle is actually we get more police on the ground, which is what you need, and it's what the police need as well. If you take the summer that we've just had, I think that Constabulary have actually handled it exemplary. The people that are in our Constabulary are just amazing people, but they can't do it at that level forever. And I think it's our job and our duty to find new and innovative ways to take the pressure off them. And we can only do that by A, reducing the demand in the first place, So it is working with other agencies, so someone who goes into mental crisis gets a mental health team to them, especially when they're known. We actually employ mental health nurses on our force control room now, because they can triage people through the system, and it's actually more cost effective to do that now than keep ringing 111 press 2, which is what the police used to have to do, same as everyone else. So those practitioners have access to all the medical records that the police don't have, so they can do a triage service on the phone. They actually sit in our force control room. So that's how the face is changing. That's how we are collaboratively working with our partners, the medical commissioning group as well. What I'm here to do is give you an assurance that your local policing won't diminish in terms of your local community policing as a result of this. The point of this is to give us more resilience overall.
Could I ask a question about the prisons, please? You talked about the cost of prisons and stuff like that, but I'm more interested how you're going to integrate with the probation service and the prison service, because they're no longer part of the police. And so we've got prisons, and you've got private prisons, and you've got private prison operators. That's an awful lot of agencies which you should be working closer with. How are you going to work closer with them?
I chair what we call the Criminal Justice Board, and it brings all of those partners. I have a bloody great room, you can imagine, but it brings all of those partners together. We meet every other month to discuss strategic issues, how we can work better together, and actually for us to challenge both ways. If there are sticky points within the system and somebody's doing something that can affect one of the other areas, it is challenging. You talk about private prisons. Peterborough is a Sodexo prison, and I have to say it works very well. And we have representatives from Sodexo and Her Majesty's prisons, although Peterborough is our only local one. Little Hay is a national prison for sex offenders now, and Whitemore is a Category A prison, which makes your toes curl when you go around there. I always say, if anyone says, it's like a holiday camp, then notwithstanding, probably is compared to the Butlins I went to when I was a kid, but I can assure you, if anyone ever says that to me, I'll take you around Whitemore if you think they're a holiday camp.
But
bring a spare pair of underwear.
But the flip side of that is prisons don't work. So what's your rehabilitation strategy then as well?
The offender hub is obviously the start of that. It's evident prisons don't work. We've got 86,000 people in prison now, which has gone up 6,000 in the last year. Peterborough cells are tiny, and they put double bunks in them because they've got twice the level of prisons that they're ever built for there. So that brings with it its own issues as well. And I always refer back to a guy I met early in my tenure that I called Billy the Burglar. And I met him in Cambridge City, and the burglary team there, brilliant. And they said, we've got this guy on, he's on licence at the moment. We've asked if he'll come in and have a chat with you. He might not turn up, and he did. I spent a couple of hours with him on a settee, just talking about his life. And he, like anybody that gets into criminality, a lot of people that get into criminality come from a deprived background or a troubled background. He didn't have a father around at all, and his mother was a prolific alcoholic. So he didn't have any mentoring. He went out and did what he wanted. By the time he was 11, he was stealing bikes, selling them for 20 quid. By the time he was 15, he was burgling houses in Cambridge City on his own, at 15. He's now 30, in fact he'll be 31 now. He spent more than half of his life either in institutions or in prison. And he will tell you that the only thing he ever learns in prison is how not to get caught next time from his peers in prison, not woodwork, metalwork, plumbing, NVQ2s, which is what they're trying to push so that they get a chance for a job when they come out. So the whole point of conditional cautions is that you are stopping people getting into the process to start with. You're actually sorting the problem out. And yeah, don't get me wrong, probably 60% of people you're never going to rehabilitate at all, and they deserve to be in prison. That's the best place for them. But there are 40% we estimate that we can work with. Some of the Nordic countries, Denmark especially, are reducing their prison population exponentially at the moment because they're taking on this model. and people aren't reoffending, and crime levels are falling through the floor. So putting people in prison doesn't work, and it's evident it doesn't work. The only time it works is if you keep people in prison a long time, to keep them away from the public, to keep the public safe if they're that dangerous. But there's loads of statistics that support the work we're doing. It's how we roll that out in an even bigger way, so we don't just affect 350, but we affect the 40 that are released back every month into our local community just here alone.
Thank you. Right, are there any other questions? Okay, I'll just take one more. Okay.
You mentioned the new casualty reduction officer who's obviously been in the news a little bit recently.
Yeah.
What's the priority for them? Is it sort of motorways, speeding on rural roads, cycle accidents? What's the
Yeah,
focus?
there was a little bit of Twitter traffic, to be fair, to say the very least, over something. And some of it, I hasten to add, was probably a little bit politically motivated. However, which is unfortunate because his role isn't in any way, shape or form political. His role is to reduce casualties and deaths if you are a pedestrian, whether you're on a push bike, whether you're in a car, whether you're on a rural road, whether you're on a motorway. That's his remit. You know.
So he's not got what I'm getting at is there, I don't know the figures, is there more casualties on the M11 or are there more
In fact,
casualties?
there's less casualties on motorways. Our rural roads are where most people die.
Sure.
All of the deaths have been car related or motorcycle related over the last year. And we've got to focus on reducing those deaths, and that sometimes is going to be around infrastructure. It's not just going to be about educating people. I've supported Drive IQ, which please publicise it. It's going to go to every school and every sixth form, which is there to start that whole process where young people start to drive, to get them to think about, like most kids, they feel that they want to be the fastest, but actually the whole point of this is that actually we want to teach you to be the best driver and have pride in the driving that you do. So it's trying to change those sort of ingrained cultures that some young lads, we've been some time ago from now, but there's a lot of initiatives that we can tackle. But yeah, and believe me, cycling is a big issue, especially in Cambridge, and the answer isn't enforcement, because you're never going to have enough police. We've got 6,000 roads and streets in Cambridgeshire. We've never had enough police to deal with that sort of size, nor the growth that we have as well. The reality is, places like Cambridge City, which have one of the biggest bike populations, push bike populations in the country, were never designed for the level of push bikes, the level of cars that are going in and out, and the level of other pedestrians that all sort of mingle and merge within those areas. So I think the answer is more about infrastructure and working with our other strategic partners to find solutions rather than just enforcement.
Right, I'd like to thank Jason very much for coming along and talking to us.
You're welcome.
I think we found a very useful session.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
And like I say, we're pushing an open door.
Yes.
If any of you have any issues, just contact my office and we'll come back to you. You don't have to use Twitter as a forum.
I'm not President of the United States.
Not yet, David.
We are doing a police panel next week in Sawston Parish.
Yes, they are. That's right. Yes.
Next Wednesday.
Yeah.
And that's Tuesday. That's public.
Tuesday.
It is.
I think it's
It is. Yes. And we urge people to go to it because usually it's the same familiar faces that turn up. So more on the
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for the invite, very much appreciated.
Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Cheers, thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
Right, so we move on to agenda item 97, which are the minutes of the last full parish council meeting of 12th September. So I'll go through those as usual by paragraph. Paragraph 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, over page 76, 77, 78, 79, over the page. Over the page. 80, 81, 82, 83. So this is these. Yes, yes, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yes, yeah, 84. Yes, that's right. Yes. So, yes, that's right. Yes, 85, 86, 87, over the page, 88, 89, 90, 91, and 92. Now, sign those those are rather simple criteria. And it's everyone agree with it. So, the no matters arising from those, as I'm on the agenda. Now, agenda item 99, after these papers are sent out, does actually contain reserved information because it deals with the staffing matter, and therefore I need to take it in camera. So what I'm proposing to do with permission of the meeting is to move it to the end rather than stop the meeting and so is everyone now proposed by Neil, seconded by Janet. Does everyone agree with that? Right, so that moves on to agenda item 100, which is a report from the Planning and Environment Committee held on the 3rd of September. 3rd of October, sorry. And again, my number. So, the explanation at the front was this meeting wasn't actually able to make any delegated decisions, but there were none actually on the agenda, so that was not a particular issue. So agenda item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over the page, 6, 7, 8, over the page 9, 16, 10, 11, 12, that's what we call. 13, 14. Oh yes, we have a recommendation we've had a request from Main Arnold and Harris who like to support the bonfire event. They locked £100 donation, and they would like to display one of their banners on the meeting, and there's a recommendation to full council to allow that permission. So, would anyone like to propose that? So all those in agreement? That's unanimous. Yeah. 14, 15, 17, 18 and 19. Now sign the sorry?
Can I just ask, under the planning applications, there's please see attached that do not support the various reasons for not supporting
Oh,
the
sorry,
layout.
I've done that. I emailed it out, but I can email that. That's
If you have emailed it, then
yeah.
that's
I
fine,
think
but we ought to make sure that it's part of the minutes.
Yes.
Yes, I agree. Yes. So with those with that attachment, it was basically an issue with layout because as you know, we normally agenda item 6 we normally do it in agreement with the
Indeed,
reasons
yeah,
outside.
no, I understand. There are so many reasons,
It was
yes.
about 3 pages,
Yeah,
it's
no, I
a bit
understand.
silly, so that's the reason it was done like that.
And can I just check, you said at the beginning when you this minutes that this meeting wasn't able to make delegated decisions. Is that not
It was
a delegated decision?
No, because we're just making a recommendation.
yes.
It will
Yes,
actually
yes.
So
take
it's
the
a
decision as by the
decision.
council.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right, so if we can...
You didn't get to propose on the second.
Oh, sorry.
No, sorry, yeah.
sorry, yes. You,
Tony, thank you.
second, Ashley, and all those in agreement. Thank you. So, agenda item 101.
The reason you said 3rd of September was has that been added to?
Yes, I was just running the agenda.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Right, so if we can move on to the accounts, which should be circulated on my spreadsheet in front
We
of
have
you.
an additional one in front because I haven't signed the code through. Like, so it's just an additional check, it's only one check, so it's very good.
So any questions or comments on
I'm a bit startled by the cost of advertising a clerk's job, especially as I haven't actually heard of the person that we're advertising with. But is it linked to the Cambridge News?
It's Cambridge News, it goes on the website, Newmarket.
Okay. I don't
We
think
did
I've
agree it.
it is very expensive, I mean, that's one of the reasons.
At the extra parish.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and it always has been.
I don't think I've seen it advertised locally.
It has been, because it's,
Yeah.
I put it on, it's on the website, I put it on all the notice boards, it's in the window, it's in Cambridge News, on the website, it's in the Newmarket, might have been Saffron, so it's in Fairfield.
On the Facebook.
Yeah.
Local news.
Yeah.
Oh, so it was.
Okay. Right.
Propose to adopt them, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you.
I'll second that. So proposed by Tony, seconded by Neil. All those in favour? Thank you.
Thank you.
It's unanimous. Right, so planning applications associated matters. So the first one is a prior approval application, which I think we've seen before, isn't it? So we need to fill. For the change of use of building lot use to residential units 84 London Road, Sawston. How many comments on this? As I say, it is a prior approval.
So this was a rejection because of not enough information. So the council turned it down because they hadn't got enough information, and there's now 4 or 5 additional pieces of information here, or 6 here on the list that refer to requirements by council officers to study various issues, including pollution and so on. But it's not terribly significant. I mean, it used to be a pub, I believe.
Indeed, well, the front part of it used to be a pub, yes, yeah, there's a bit of it, yeah. So, Janet.
I was just going to add, there is in addition a comment from a neighbour, resident of South Terrace, who says they have no objections to the planning application, but as the immediate neighbour, and for reasons of security, I would request that a suitable fence be erected between my garden and the car park, which is open to London Road and can be used by anybody. So that is something additional on there. I don't think we knew of any neighbour comments before either. I don't know whether the recommendation regarding fence is something that we
We
can.
certainly had to.
Yeah.
Certainly had that. The committee reminded to you.
I
think
propose we support the application.
With the neighbour comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, since they've taken the trouble to write,
Yes.
presumably is an issue.
Well, I mean, it seems a
Support
reasonable
with
request.
Yeah.
So I have a proposal from Brian. Do I have a second there? Sorry, Janet. Okay. So all those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10.
Those against? Those abstaining? And 2 no votes.
Yeah.
Right, so next one, which is S3182 17FL, which is single storey rear extension to former garden rooms, Lemonade Hillside.
This is the one where in August they started to take part of the roof off and create a room within the roof and put roof lights at the front
Yes, and
without permission.
that was reported to the enforcement officer who visited the site, provided their Velux lights were flashed.
But that's the back, but what about where they created a room and taken it off, where the scaffold is?
Loft
conversion.
conversions of permitted developments, they fall under building
So
control
is that conformed
regulations.
with regulations?
As I say, that's a building control matter, but yes, I mean, they would have to have a building control certificate to carry out the work legally.
Again, there are some neighbour comments on the website from a neighbour at Hillside about requesting confirmation of the actual overall height of the extension. Plan suggests that it's the same height as the existing building. due to the age of properties, I would also like clarification that the additional drainage to the utility room, garden room will not compromise any shed services. Two examples being the gas pipe, blah blah, and the sewage pipes running into.
So the neighbours saying they're actually building over
Well, there is clarification of the additional drainage will not compromise any shared services. Two examples being the gas pipe for supplying to 11A and 15 is accessible in the alleyway of 11A, and the sewage pipes for 15 Hillside run into the manhole at 17 Hillside.
Yes. I mean, those are not strictly planning issues, but they're worth pointing out as an informative, even if it isn't that they wish to do so.
And the first issue was about the height. Sorry, just
Is it worth? But I think the plans show that it's carrying on, as we see down here, at the same height as the existing, which is going to be extended. But that's an issue that
presumably they're
the
just
planning officers
suspicious.
will take into account. Can I suggest that it's otherwise uncontentious that we support it, noting
With the
with the
their comments.
notes of
Yeah.
Okay, so,
neighbours' comments.
so proposed and no objection, I find. No second. Kieran. All those in favour, no objection. Right, yeah. So,
Didn't catch it?
yes, yes, okay. So, those against, those abstaining, 2 abstentions, and 2 no votes. I'm going to take 80 and 78 together, sorry, the 3395 and 3394 together, because they are 2 neighbours who have decided to cooperate and also do a joint scheme across their frontage. I think it's very good, yes, I mean, it's good to see people working together like that.
It's a shame they have to make 2 applications.
They have to split the application.
Yes, it is, yes.
Can I
Yes.
ask an obvious question? It seems to be within permitted development.
The front extensions are much more restricted than rear extensions, so I would suspect that's the reason why. But as I said, they do seem very modest extensions. Actually.
But on a roll, can I suggest we support both of these individually? Would we have to take a separate vote on that?
We probably ought to take a separate
Take
vote on
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
actually, yes, yeah.
So if we go
So-
80
I'm happy to second.
Second both, okay. So taking the first one, which is 3395, those in favour of the proposal, no objection. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 in favour. Those against, those abstaining, and 2 no votes. And 3394, proposed no objection. So, and so second is okay. So say 2. So those in favour of no objection. Okay. So okay. Those against, those abstaining, and 2 no votes. So S3331, which is proposed double garage at 87 Mill Lane at Sawston.
This is coming again, isn't it?
Yes.
It was a reduction of a garage that was originally rejected, being out of keeping.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Brian's right. This was actually refused by South Cambs and not supported by Parish Council previously in June on the grounds of design. I had a look at what the grounds for rejection were. It's citing excessive size, scale and mass will be excessively prominent in the street scene views and result in significant visual harm to the set linear pattern and open character of the local area.
So the officers are saying that here they would like to support the proposal. They've been in discussion with the owner who has tried to accommodate their suggestions in the revised plan.
Where does it say that?
That's my inference from this letter, which says officers would be likely to support the proposal subject to the advice below,
Yeah.
which is followed.
Yeah. I have to say, I mean, I still think it looks fairly intrusive. It's hard to see how anything built on the front is not going to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've got a similar thing in Church Lane, haven't we?
Yeah.
It looks absolutely
You've
horrible,
got, you've
and
got
I
two in
noticed,
Church Lane,
Yeah.
actually.
yes,
Yeah,
but
so-
I also notice every time I pass it that
Yes,
all the
it is.
cars are still parked on the driveway, whereas
Yeah.
the carriage, so it does seem really quite big.
And if that plan on the left-hand side is to scale, it's absolutely massive.
Yeah, I think it's
It's
still
double-
It's
large.
bigger than two of the rooms in that
Yeah.
house, so.
I think it's still very large.
It
Yes.
is.
Yes.
Yes, I suppose because the house is a bungalow, even though it's only high enough to house cars, it's still
Show the house.
huge, isn't it?
Oh, the house itself?
Yes, yes, there is a
Uh,
panorama, well, the
Oh,
house is
sorry.
behind, sorry, so the house is behind it.
Oh, well, there we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So it's a
and
chalet bungalow.
it's going to be slightly odd compared to what it is at the moment, but it's already quite odd. There's no front wall, so they're talking about putting one in. I thought the first one was, as most of us did, thought it was overbearing for the site, and it might try to accommodate.
So do I have a proposal?
I'd like to propose not
Not support.
Seconded.
Do I have a second?
Right, hold on, hold on.
So,
Because
proposed by Janet and
Yeah,
seconded
do
by
not
Neil,
support
not
because-
supporting.
grounds of design, well, still overbearing and out of
Overbearing,
character.
yes, both to the street scene and to the property itself.
Property itself, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
The question is, as we've already allowed one down St Mary's Road,
Well, we may well not
Well,
have.
the-
It may be that South Camden, we didn't support it.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, yes, I mean, I think if you're talking about number 7, I think that's is a slightly different situation because as it's set back a lot further from the road than this one would be. I'm not saying whether I approve of it or not, but I think it is a significantly different planning situation.
Can we look along the road that way as well,
Yes,
Brian? Because I suspect there's just nothing else sort of there, is there?
Yeah.
And all the houses are set back.
Yeah, it's quite low.
There is an opportunity. Oh, I shouldn't say.
Okay.
just a vote, then I've got a proposer and a second. Do not support.
So if there's no further discussion, I'll move to a vote. We have a proposal from to not support. All those in favour of that proposal, not support. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those against? 1. Those abstaining? 2. And 2 no votes. So over the page, next item is 3380 is purely for it's specific information.
Noted.
So noted.
Well, this is about the
This is the archaeological
Marley.
position, yes.
So they're wanting a discharge from something they haven't done yet.
Well,
So
to discharge a condition,
Yeah.
you need to come up with a valid scheme of archaeology. You actually have to do it because that review presumably take place once the development has started. So provided you can produce a satisfactory scheme of investigation, that discharges the condition.
And the council are saying at the moment, because it's only a proposal, they recommend discharging them from the.
Well, that was
Requirement.
yes, I mean that was how I read it. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, it's
Yeah,
this
just
is
to
I
clarify.
mean, this is the archaeology unit that basically assesses these. Yeah.
Sure, thank you.
So noted. Okay. And tree application S3424 to reduce the sycamore and car park, which is the Sawston Military and Tannery Road.
Is that just for notification or we need to?
No, you can make comment if you want.
Yes.
So
It's pretty uncontentious, isn't it?
it's just in the car park at the back. So
Yeah.
you
It's a-
can't
it's a-
see it there.
No, it's oh, there we are, there's it now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
the
these
mile
and-
round.
No support.
Seconded.
So back onto the Millennium Copse.
Yes.
So I have a
Who
proposal.
seconded it?
I have a
Sorry,
proposal
you.
support from Kieran and
Yeah.
seconded by Neil. So all those in favour of that recommendation? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Yes.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, I'm.
You voted on that,
We are,
yes,
yes,
that's
yes,
unanimous.
okay. Right, so Agenda item 103 is Christmas tree in the High Street.
So Christmas tree in the High Street, I have written to Scottsdale's asking if we can have another tree, but I haven't heard back yet. But it's just really, if we do have the tree again, for the additional cost for the lights. So obviously we were on a 3-year contract and we hadn't included it, so
I think we're
cost it
talking about
£400.
yes.
Yeah.
Propose that we do that. I think it was a great addition to the high street.
Yeah.
Okay, so proposed by Kieran, seconded by Rashmi. So all those in favour of that proposal?
Thank you.
Okay, that's unanimous. Neighbourhood Plan update, Janet.
Yes, the notes of the meeting in August have been circulated to all councillors. We're working with other villages on the area boundary for the neighbourhood plan, and we have a meeting next week, Thursday 19th of October at 10 o'clock, when we hope we'll be able to start to make some progress on this. We have representatives from South Cambs District Council planning team coming to the meeting next week, so if anyone has any questions to ask them but are not able to come along to the meeting, then do please email me and I'll ask them.
Thank you. Really, Brian.
As I mentioned before, I think if we could ask them nicely, both Clankersford and Daybane, I'm unsure about whether they've got the approval of their residents to join us. I think we can ask them to give themselves the deadline as to when they might make a decision.
I personally don't think that's probably very helpful, simply because the meeting is only next week, and I do know that one of the villages has made quite a bit of progress on this. I don't think it's something to say in public at this point in time, but certainly we have some progress, and I wouldn't want to kind of discourage any joint working at this point in time. We've only got another week to go, so if people could be patient we'll give, yes, as Jo said, we'll give an update afterwards. It was very helpful that people suggested that the notes were circulated, so we'll certainly do that pretty promptly, and we can report back to the next full parish meeting.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Any other questions or discussion on the item? Okay, so we want to agenda item 105, Remembrance Day. Presumably that's simply to notify
Circulate it just to notify.
that they are actually asked for a formal traffic and traffic closure this year. So that's
Have you ordered our reads?
Yeah, I just said at the end, we'll be
But
coming
you
next
have to
week, so
know
I need to
prices.
speak.
We'll do the check.
Yeah, we'll do
as
it.
well.
could you record Kevin's declaration of interest as Vice Chair in the local region branch? So, agenda item 106, we're asking for volunteers. Neil, Janet.
Right, I tell you what I did.
Yes,
Because we, after last year's event, we had discussions and we've done the entrance so that people can get in with wheelchairs and buggies, but it was also said about using Spice's car park as disabled parking. I can get the road closure to go that, to stop just after Spice's so we can use it, but somebody will need to stand there and make sure that it's only disabled users that use it.
Yes.
So if you all want to give me everyone who's interested, can stand in there. I can't do it because I need to be on
Yes,
the top,
yes.
so
My apologies as well.
Yeah. no problem, Tony. But it's just if no one volunteers, then it
Well,
doesn't happen.
we can
so
take volunteers after the meeting if people wish to consider their position.
Probably best.
Or
to
people
who's
let me
going to be
know
there
who's
that
going to be
night,
there.
yes, and then we can maybe.
What date is it?
It's the
Saturday the 4th.
Right.
Yes, yeah, okay. Right, so we move on to Sawston Children's Centres.
That's an update.
Yeah, it's just that there's been a lot of publicity over the children's centres. Not all good, not all bad. What the point I wanted to raise is the fact that Sawston's actually getting a really good deal out of this. It's been changed to a children and adult or parent zone, which means it has a greater flexibility and it also has greater reach. The beauty of it is Sawston could get a new one, it's going into the hub. It would also have the advantage of being bigger, having more people there, offering more facilities and services, and it also means that Belper then can release up spaces for early learning. That's really what I wanted to bring to this, is that Sawston is actually doing really well out of this, and it's going to be a major benefit to Sawston and the surrounding villages.
Thank you. Brian?
But there's a reduction in budget for the county of significant amount.
That's one way of putting it. I put it another way of restructuring the county.
But there's less money going into children's
It's a
centres.
huge reduction, it's more than $1 million cuts, isn't it?
Not, but it hasn't been actually guaranteed that it'll be that much at the moment. There's still ongoing negotiations regarding and discussions,
So that's
especially
current
after
proposal.
the current debates that have been going on. So it's not definite.
So can I just ask a question, by the way? The hub,
Yes.
is that going to be run by the county council?
Yes, I assume it is, yes.
I just haven't really seen it, so I'm going to do with all the employment from
Sort of,
the
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a building, basically.
Yeah.
A house there.
I just wondered whether there was going to be any local involvement in how the Sawston hub was being run for Sawston.
I'm sure there'll be volunteers that will step into the breach as and when needed, especially when it comes to the area that the local hub will be with the children and parents on. That will be a great opportunity. There will be other opportunities for other voluntary services to support and help as and when they're needed.
When you say opportunities, you mean they're going to need volunteers to support underfunded children's centre staff, because I imagine it's going to be resourcing and staffing it that's going to be the problem. It's not just a building.
The
Because a lot of
viability report states that the resourcing of the Sawston one is actually very solid.
What does that mean?
It's solid.
Does that mean they're not reducing what they've currently got? Because I thought it had already been reduced quite a lot. They've been cutting
Reducing
down on what they can offer for the last few years.
You're getting a better resource and a better facility, so that's not reducing, that's making it solid.
But I don't think it's about the building, I think it's about the staff, because I think a lot of the people who need most help in a children's centre need one-to-one help.
And they will be offering that service will still be there, even with the outreach.
But there's going to be less centres across the county for the same number of people needed.
There's going to be certain centres that will be relocated, yes,
No, there's going to be a reduction of the number of centres.
relocated.
The centres are going to serve more people.
Yes.
So yes,
There's
a
going to
smaller
be
number of
less-
centres serving
less
more
often.
people. Yes.
Yeah.
Right, right, for no further discussion on this item, I'll move on to the, I think it's an issue raised by Peg, actually, it's on the planning committee. There are concerns related regarding alarms going off during the social hours in the high street. So, Peg.
Well, actually, the most recent thing I've heard is that there was actually a break-in at one of the places right down our end of the high street, and they were actually put off by a burglar alarm going. I think our concern is more with the businesses that are right on the high street, where we've had alarms go off on Sunday afternoons that actually drive people away from the high street. I see from the previous set of minutes that we said we'd try and put something in Sawston Sync that would encourage people to log the times when the alarm goes off, because that's the only way that anyone can actually make a complaint about it. I'm afraid I didn't remember to write anything, and I think I need to say that I think when things need to go to the Village magazine, given my position on the Village magazine, I'm very unlikely to remember to write them myself during the production process. So I think it has to come from the parish clerk or from somebody else on the council. I mean, obviously I try to. But in this case, I think it tends to come up on the Facebook page, and that is advice that we've given. What I didn't know was whether there's anything that can actually put this into planning regs when people are applying for changes of use, or whether there's anything else we can use against it. But I mean, it's a very sporadic problem actually, because it all seems to have stopped at the moment.
I mean, unless it involves alteration to a listed building, it would normally come under environmental legislation or planning.
So is there any legislation that can be used just to
Yes.
prosecute businesses?
Yes.
that-
General noise abatement legislation, yes.
Yes.
But you have to have fairly solid evidence in order to do it. You can't do it on anecdote basically.
No, but you basically need to ask anyone who's affected to keep a diary of when the problem happens. I mean, it's been under various headings. I think it was noise nuisance at one point, and it may even have come under antisocial behaviour at one point. But it's basically a district council.
Are you saying that it rings for longer than 20 minutes?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, we've had
Because
it go off
under the
continually
NEC,
for
unless
Sunday
it should only ring for 20 minutes and then mute.
Yes.
Then they come back on, don't they? Sometimes they.
Whoever
Yes, they do for
supplied
10
this
minutes and they're
particular
back on.
one.
That's what
I mean,
they do.
I used to have contact details for a business in the high street where it goes most frequently, but I'm not the person who's most bugged by it, and I'm far enough away that if I'm doing something else I won't necessarily hear it. So it does really need the people who are most badly affected to just keep it on.
So basically, do you want the parish councils to do anything?
I don't think we actually can we? I don't.
Well, I mean, apart from encouraging people to keep these noise diaries, I don't think we can. And that's.
One of the difficulties is that if, for example, as has happened, it goes off at 5 o'clock in the morning and goes on till 6 or 7 o'clock.
I don't want to
Then-
actually
but
get
you've
up and
you've
trace
got to
over
get
there to
out
find out what sort of
bed
business it
and
is.
find out whose alarm is going off so that you can actually record it.
Yes.
I have done this.
Yes. Well, with winter coming on, just there's walking down the restaurant ones like
It's not fun for people there.
Okay. Okay. Well,
I think if all of us are just aware that the only way to solve it is to ask people to keep a diary of when the thing goes off, and then we could possibly then back up a complaint to South Camps to say this is a noise nuisance.
Yeah.
Well, it's not enough to say when the noise has been made, you've got to identify where it's coming from.
Exactly.
That's the key point. And then you can directly approach the council.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I think we've dealt with that item as far as we can. So agenda item 109, which is the S1307. Well, S1307 request from P Department, Sawston Village College. We've seen the application form for you, and also we have the grants and donations policy.
I think we should decide whether or not this is a project that replaces funding.
Right,
for
public
public
sectors, yeah, so I'll put it on again, that's fine.
Because we have had previous and
That we've
applications
refused, yeah,
to
it's
schools
good,
which
yeah.
I mean, whilst I'm sympathetic to the school, I think if the school budget can't find 80 quid, then something's very wrong.
So I make a proposal.
Well, I propose that we can't consider it because it doesn't match our policy. And the policy which is, I mean, I don't know how much of this is legal under, or how much is statutory and how much is discretionary, but this is our policy and I don't think we can accept unfortunately.
So I have a second.
Second.
Okay. So proposed by Kieran and seconded by Neil Reid that we do not support on the ground that it's outside our policies. So all those in favour of that proposition, please indicate.
Yep.
So we're actually unanimous. And we have a...
Well, we don't.
No, we don't. No, I
Well,
couldn't see a form.
No,
Wasn't
well,
there something I've
Robert
got
asked me to
download?
put it on, and
Yes.
then he said he'd send me the form, which obviously then I would have sent you, but he hasn't, so we can't.
Well, I-
Sorry, it.
Village College Board could suggest other village organisations that they could apply to.
Yes, I mean, although in principle we might be sympathetic to it, I don't think we consider it without a proper application form.
No, I think
No,
we're talking about,
Sorry,
yeah,
so
we're
you're
sure
not-
it's
you're
on
not-
the
Yes,
website.
yes, yeah.
Well, I think the college are hopefully aware of other organisations in the village that could support it. It doesn't necessarily fall within JHC's remit, but because it's not specifically talking about disadvantaged people. But it might be, as it's a relatively small amount, it might be something that they could talk about. Well, yeah, fund run would be an even better.
Yes,
They do have a stash of money for things like that.
Yes,
Okay, so
Yes, and it's just coming up to their deadline for applications
It is,
as well,
isn't it?
which is in November.
So the Winter Fair one, yeah, we can't.
Would that be considered for next year? But they do have a sum of money that they could give like this year.
yeah, that's true, but such a small amount.
Right, so can we move on to agenda item 111, which is agreement practice of the Office of Wardens. Chair,
So yeah, it's yearly.
we have the...
Yeah, we've agreed we'll do a 3-year contract on so then the quotes that come through. Again, asked for 3 quotes and got 1 quote back, which is the same company we always use, well, we've used for the last 2 years.
What price do they charge
Total of £63 for all
63.
our items.
Six for how many items?
You get 63. So you
63.
don't charge us £1 an item.
Yes,
That's cheap.
That's very,
Yes, it's very
that's
cheap.
very reasonable.
Yes,
So-
But
I
it's
propose
the-
we
So
accept that.
proposed by Kieran, seconded by Tony. Oh, sorry.
I think it's important we record in the
Oh, but
minutes
cool, I
that
was-
we have tried
yeah.
for the requisite number
Yes.
of
I think they just get put up with quotes.
submissions, so we only had one
So-
put forward.
Tony wasn't seconding, I think you were seconding.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. So all those in favour of accepting that quote for testing?
That's for 3 years using
Yes.
them.
Okay. And the boiler service and
Well,
domestic
Chair.
buildings.
And I can show you emails to prove the last 3 companies. But again, we've had 1 quote, which is the same company, it's done it for the last 2 or 3 years. To do the servicing of the boiler at the office and the 3 pavilions, £372. Well, 310 plus VAT. And that always used to come out as the cheapest quote, but he's done it in the last couple of years.
Okay, so okay.
And as I
Again,
I'm very happy that Joe's got an order trail.
Oh, I have, yeah, definitely, yeah.
So proposed by Tony, seconded by Neil. All those in favour of accepting that
Thank you.
quotation? Okay. So JHC update, Kieran.
Thank you for my periodic reporting. We are seeing more requests for help this year than last. We've seen 280 clients this year, and last year, this is to the end of last week, and last year we saw 300 in the entire year, so demand is growing, and we've already given out more food this year, so far this year, than we gave out the entire last year. In terms of inquiries, benefits, questions about benefits are still the top inquiry, and that's going to be more and more so as universal credit is rolled out, and we expect to see more requests for debt advice as universal credit kicks into. This is the time of the year where we deliver nearly 60 Christmas hampers to residents in the village. So all the people who are on our books basically, and those are food hampers but also luxury items. So it's about this time where donations of luxury items, things that people might not buy for themselves but would find good to have at Christmas, are always welcome, as well as the dry food that we always look for all the way around, all through the year. We're running a coffee morning for friends and clients on the 12th of December, to which everybody is invited. I'll try and do an email about that nearer the time in case people can pop in. It's always good to see people, and that would be an opportunity to meet the staff and the clients. I'm very pleased to say that we have a new family support worker. I'm particularly pleased because this is someone who's worked as part of the locality team doing family work for people under contract from the schools. She was made redundant by the locality team, and I'm very pleased that we were able to employ her so that we can continue that work. Basically, we will work with the schools to identify people in exactly the same way that she was doing with the locality team, but we can then expand that particular work with families, working with children one-to-one and also with families in a wider sense. We were just at a meeting this morning talking about how the work of commissioning mental health counselling for children, which again used to be organised by the locality team, with the schools has now dropped off completely, and so we're having to work with the schools to try and identify that with Corin, and then that may well be something that JHC ends up having to fund again. We already fund Cogwheel to do to provide adult counselling for adults, but this will be something that we're looking to pick up. We have just started work yesterday on the conversion of the old offices into two-bedroom houses. If you remember that, we were going to rename it Cullen House. And so that work starts, as I say, yesterday and is expected to finish at the beginning of February. We're hoping that they won't cause any traffic problems. You know that's always been a bit of a worry at the end of Tannery Road, that it's a bit of a bottleneck. But the contractors are obviously, doing their best to work around that and not cause any, not exacerbate any problems that we get at nursery drop-off time. And when that's done, then that should reduce the traffic flow there, because there'll be maybe as many cars as when it was an office, but no more. Members will remember that JHC purchased two houses in Mill Lane, one of which had been a council house, and the other of which had been privately owned and not in a very good state. We've twice submitted plans for pre-app planning advice, and so far not been able to satisfy the planners with a scheme. We want to, in essence, we want to put more units on the site than just two houses.
Yes,
And so we're currently still working with South Cambs to try and find a scheme that meets their requirements, but it is frustrating. We shelled out for these houses nearly 2 years ago now, and we want to get on and if we can't find a solution, then I guess we'll just have to refurbish the houses. But we'd much rather put two-bedroom units in rather than larger units, because that's what the demand is for. And also, they're no particular architectural great shapes or anything. It would cost us as much to refurbish them as to knock them down and build new ones. So.
I'm very happy to talk to the planners if that would be of assistance.
Well, thank you. I did suggest that we should show you guys what we've done and see if we can find a way to accommodate it.
Semi-detached house that's had a damaged roof and
yes, so we own
I think it would be well worth raising with these people as to how much local concern there is about.
It's must have been going on for about 3 or 4 years.
Well, yes, I mean, we expressed concern about that empty house for a long time as a parish, and then JHC were able to buy it. South Cambs bought it first. We bought it from.
No, that's saying anything
from
we
South
can
Cambs.
do to help. We're very pleased to.
Well, that's why I brought it up.
Can I just ask about what the resolutions of the planners is? How would that actually know?
I haven't got all of that detail, and it's probably not worth, it's at too early a stage to share publicly. But I mean, I'm happy to have an informal discussion if you want, and I say it would be good to do that informally with you so that we can see if we can move that. And finally, we're also, that South Cambs is trialling a new project called Housing Options for Older People, and which is about helping older people to think about their housing options and adaptations that might be done to be able to keep them in their own homes. And we're involved with the presentation stage of that. I think some councillors already coming to the event on the 23rd of October, because it's been circulated, but anybody is still invited to that if you want to hear what the Care Network are talking about. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Janet.
One question. Thank you for that. I was going to ask about demand for housing. asking, in a way you answered it, 'cause you said it was 2-bedroom houses that was the demand. Is that then for small families, or what are the sort of people groups that occupy those houses?
I don't have the actual figures off the top of my head, but I know that in terms of what we've developed, it's why we've gone for the 2-bedroom units on Tannery Road. That is that we don't, because our almshouses are designed as stepping stones,
Yeah.
you know, to help people who aren't able to get onto the local authority housing system for whatever reason. The people who live in our houses are really should only be there for 2 years. That's the idea, and so it tends not to be larger settled families.
So it might be, say, 2 parents and 1 child, or... it might be-
Yeah, I mean, I think we have
might
got
be
larger
2
ones, but and we have.
two
I think we do
individuals, I
have
suppose.
some slightly larger units, but
Yeah,
we haven't had the need for really large ones.
yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Sorry, Richard. Yeah.
The food bank, depending on donation structure, is it not?
Well, I think we also we buy some food ourselves because there are people who support it with cash donations as well. But yes, we have collection baskets in Budgeons and St Mary's, probably the three churches in, I think, and various people do put goods into there.
I was going to ask about so I only
So,
a
Trish
quick
James
question
as well.
about the luxury items you talked about. What sort of things are you thinking about there?
Well, no, I'm thinking more like bubble bath or
yeah, kind of,
Um,
yes.
Indulgence.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
that sort of thing. The sort of thing that you wouldn't spend your own quid on,
Yeah,
but
so-
Yeah.
to get in.
Brian.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say thank you, and I think, you know, we're very lucky to have the charity in the village. Today, my neighbour went for advice, I think, from the citizens with advice over disability, like living allowance, that she's just been denied. We've been helping her with an appeal, so it's a real valuable resource for the whole village. So thank you.
Yes, no,
Thank John
I
Hunting
don't-
for his
I
foresight.
also, there was a similar position as Great Hill, I think.
Well, and indeed, I'm very glad that the charity's there to be able to pick up the pieces. And, we're covering more and more. Thankfully, at the moment we have the resources to do that. But,
No, I think we're extremely fortunate, to have that resource in the village, actually.
Yes, it worries you that there are villages that don't have something to pick up the pieces, and also you would have hoped that something that was created to deal with paupers who fell out of the bottom of the system in the 1600s wouldn't be needed now.
Indeed.
What's more fortunate that it wasn't actually money, was it, that was left, it was the land, which has produced the money.
So if we move on to correspondence, we have just the one item which has been circulated from the Chalice Trust, and as you'll see, they're proposing to move their archive into the new Chalice Trust premises. It's a fairly long-term project, and I gather the actual moving of material won't take place until the spring, having spoken to anything. But anyway, it's there.
It's ongoing, yeah.
Basically, it's
The room which is going to be used for the items which are stored here
yes.
will be finished tomorrow, but the room itself will be finished, but then we're shelving fitted and all sorts of things. So
There's also quite a bit of cataloguing to be done as well, I think.
yeah, I think most of these catalogued already.
It's a Southampton on Grant.
Yes.
Mary's been coming in, because there's a lot of stuff in the she has.
Yeah.
So will visitors be able to access that
They
archive
will indeed.
more easily?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
it's there. Because will there be someone to help them?
Yes. Hopefully.
I mean, at the moment, the only way you get at most of the stuff is by taking it like
Yeah, I realise that.
Yeah.
It's only a loft that thing.
Well, it's
Not an easily accessible loft, I must admit, but yeah,
No,
there's a
indeed.
lot of stuff.
It's a very good development.
It is, actually, yes, it is.
It's taken a long time.
Yes, yeah.
10 years, so
Is there any particular thing we can be doing here when we get the space back?
Oh.
Sorry, do I beat you
well,
to it?
to be fair, it is a cupboard. We need to use it for storage.
Yes, I mean, you recall that I think it's about a year ago we were discussing the possibility of building small extensions.
So yeah, we do need storage.
So that will do very nicely. That would be.
But there, I mean, one of the limitations, and I don't want to be sort of particularly hasty, or as Kieran has mentioned, it was going to anyway. I mean, clearly, the accommodation that we have here for meetings is barely big enough. If we had if we were a full council, for example, we'd have even less space. I mean, the possibility that
Have you
crossed
been
my
in that room?
yes, yeah. I mean, it's very small, but the only possibility that I saw at relatively low cost was to consider moving the kitchen into where that storeroom is, and actually opening up this to be a bigger room. So I think my suggestion would be we at least got to consider that.
Maybe
Well,
putting in a permanent
I mean, I think-
staircase upstairs so it's better storage.
I mean, I think, you know, I mean, thanks for that suggestion. I mean, I think it's obviously something we need to consider probably closer to the time when the Village History Society finally filling up that space. But yes, I think the suggestion is
You do think
report from County Councillors. There was a written report which was circulated 2 or 3 days ago. So I won't ask them to read it out. But are there any questions you wish to ask on it?
Chairman, I've just got some additional to add on a more local level, if I may. So, Dill Farm, the last correspondence to the clerk was that there had been some work done, and I got verbal confirmation yesterday that the county council side has connected up to the drainage system that's been provided by the owner, and therefore they should no longer flood.
Should no longer watch. Flood.
Is he smiling? No, he's got questions.
We're waiting.
He better make it good, otherwise I might have a few questions for him. So
The thing is, Roger, the storm drain, the water obviously goes in the storm drain, and the outlet pipe, I was just speaking to the contractors, the outlet pipe is an old clay pipe which has been filled up with roots, so it no longer works. They've now put a large pipe at the top of the drain, and he said to me, this will stop this water from gushing out the drain. It will then go into the ditch what they put the pipe into. I've been going down there 65 years and I've never ever seen water coming out of that drain. Obviously, when you take in the levels of the lowest point of the western side, the eastern side shouldn't be higher than the lowest point. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when we get a good rain. Because the original down pipe is right at the bottom of the storm drain. The one you put in is at the top. They put it at the top of the storm drain. I mean, I can see where the foreman was coming from. The services that run along Cambridge Road are in the way of putting the drain where they wanted to put it. So they had to go over the top of the services. How deep the services are, I don't know.
So, Mike, is this your way of saying thank you?
I'm very pleased to see something's being done.
Well, the thing is, Mike, if it doesn't work, you know who to come to.
Without doubt.
But when it does work, I know where to go.
Okay.
They toss the coin.
Right, are there any other issues arising from the County Council's report?
Can I just ask a
Sure.
question, additional question about budget? There's been a lot in the news recently about the impact of the safety measures that are having to be taken as a result of Grenfell Tower, and the fact that as a result of that some councils aren't able to fund other normal activities. Is that affecting Cambridge at all?
It's minimal, if nothing. We did a survey straight away. There's a few buildings. We're still waiting for reports to come back on a couple. But if there is anything that needs to be done, it is very, very minimal.
So it should be.
We hardly have any tower blocks. You know. That's
Yeah, and yeah.
Well, so
it's
that's
the
it's assembly of the
construction
South Cams, and we have no tower blocks.
Yeah, yeah, it's the construction
Yes,
and the safety
yes.
Measures, isn't it? The fire
Yes,
safety
yeah.
measures. It was just really making sure
And
there's no
I mean,
adverse impact.
cladding which is being used on low-rise buildings has also been tested as South
Yes,
Cams. So
that's
we-
what I understood. I
Yes,
think I saw something
yes,
about that
yes.
in the Cambridge.
So, yes.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, in that case, if we move on to councillors' issues, I'll go around the table as usual, starting off with Jen.
I don't think so, no, thank you.
Fine.
I just want to quickly raise the issue of noise, because the meetings are recorded for members of the public, and because I'm sure I'm not the only person on the council, I suspect, who doesn't have particularly acute hearing, but pen clicking, which you do almost without thinking about it, and just paper shuffling, and people with persistent coughs who might be better staying at home drinking hot liquids, just all adds to the general noise levels, and especially when we have long meetings, it can get quite stressful trying to work out what's being said, and I think it reduces the usefulness of the recording. So if I could just ask everybody to be aware of it, I think it's quite easy to be making a note of that, quite realising. But thank you, I would appreciate it, and I'm sure the parishioners would as well.
Right.
No.
Tony.
No.
Rashford.
No. Yeah, three things.
Okay.
Street lighting. When you go to them to try and confirm, the number that they tell you to ring has now been changed on all of them. The 0800 number.
You can do it online.
Well, that's one point.
Which I think is
Then the next point, when they're doing planning notes and they stick it to the street in column, like in Church Lane,
Yes.
why stick it over the column numbers and telephones?
I know, because that's easy to stick it
Yes, why?
I know.
Why not
Because
have
the one straight opposite Sawston Hall has been out for days.
Yes, yeah.
And then the other one is the big pothole in outside number 1 St Mary's Road. Must be 3 or 4 foot round now. Have you seen it where you hit it with a bike?
Yes. It's the depth as well as the width. That's the
It's probably only 1.5 inches, but it's getting rather large.
Yes.
And it's usually the depth that's the
Yes.
factor,
Have you
it's
reported
whether
that
they'll
one?
wear it.
No, I'm doing it
I'd
now.
like to,
We need to do it on.
I bought the whole of the St Mary's Road up with Peter Taylor, must be some weeks back now, and it is on his agenda.
It's that one just on the corner where you, because you look into the right for the traffic, you hit it.
Yeah, yes, yeah, I know what you mean, yes, yeah.
Is it not worth Neil reporting it as an individual?
It is.
Absolutely.
I hit it tonight, that was the question.
But I think they will take notice of the number of complaints
They
they,
will do.
have,
They will
so
do,
it's
yes.
always worth encouraging everybody whom it's inconveniencing to report it
Yeah.
on the county council website.
I'll do it again.
Because, I mean, if I report it, I'll just go online and report it, as anyone else would, you know, so I mean, it's, yeah, okay. Kieran,
No, nothing, thank you.
Tony.
Two things here. One, lighting again. There's a half a column in Tower Road still, which is taped up
Oh, right, okay.
on the left-hand side as you go down from Bowden Road.
Yeah, okay.
And it's been like that, well, since they started doing the lights about 3 or 4 years ago, which is only going to take 6 months to do. So it's still not finished, but it's still through. Overhanging, I know there's overhanging everywhere, by bushes and things like that. There's one particular one in Woodland Road, outside number 90 bungalow, which is I think it's above here, but not only is it encroaching, or has encroached the path completely, but it's starting to go across the road. So there is no footpath there whatsoever outside that house. Thank you.
90.
90.
Partly is need very strict pruning. Right.
Yeah, there is a problem we have with the cemetery. School children riding through the recreation ground, through the cemetery, over the recreation fence. I believe Joe has been in touch with the principal of the college before.
And we get
No
that's on,
reply.
but
I mean, the obvious thing is, we all know that children coming from the college through the cemetery must all come from Saffron.
Stapleton. Sorry. They're all going to catch the bus.
Would it not be possible just to shake
Yep.
him up a bit, please?
Actually, just as people have mentioned it, there's a particular place on Westmore Avenue that doesn't have any street lighting for a large gap. So the southern end of Westmore Avenue, it's called a Chap.
Yes.
And on the right hand side as you go up, there's a large gap, and you can't see what's pavement, what's curb, what's grass. It's clearly deficient, doesn't meet lighting standards, so I just wonder whether we can...
I'm afraid that's a common condition in a number of places around the village. I mean, yes, Huddleston Way, Church Lane, I can show you places up the sea.
So we've got a lighting system that doesn't provide the light that it's supposed to.
You have to go out with a torch.
Yeah.
You've actually got one near you, Janet, haven't you?
Yeah,
in
with
22 and 20, where there used to be one and it never got put.
Yeah. Well, two of us have now put lights on the outside of our houses, you know, so there
To
is
substitute
additional
for
light
municipal
in
street
the
lighting.
yeah, that's right, in the evenings.
Yeah.
Yeah, two of us have done that because
Did you
otherwise
connect
it's
up
just
to
so
the-
dark for coming home at night. But yeah, I mean you have to go out with a torch because walking down Church Lane,
Yeah, I agree.
before you know that. Yeah.
Actually, I don't know whether the county council is going to say anything about their statutory responsibility as council to provide municipal street lighting that actually lights the roads.
The duty is that we don't have to have street lighting at all apart from highways. That's the statutory duty.
Yes, yeah.
There is none.
That's why there's such a lot on the main roads,
Yeah.
putting extra ones along the high street.
Well, yes, I mean that was why, because you know when they had to make this 10% reduction, I gather, because they had to maintain the standards on the main highways, it was the estates which took disproportionate hit.
I believe it was said at the time that there's no actual definition of what level of lighting anybody is obliged to provide anywhere else, in fact.
I think 1930s police did quite a lot of work in that regard. There we go. That's another-
Well, don't forget that Church Lane is a district council lighting issue, not county council.
But they're maintained by that.
Well, yeah, but that's because the district council has them lights maintained, but
Well, actually,
those are all district council lights there,
yes,
as they are in some other areas.
They are indeed, yes. There are 104 in the village.
Exactly.
Let's move off the new mode.
Right, so I'm now going to have to move into the thing. Sorry, Kevin.
No, my insurance is right.
Okay.
Deal with it.
And right, now I'm going to have to move into a session in order to take agenda item on the second episode.